Hopefully by now you are very clear about what feminist philosophy is, what the feminists have been looking for, and how they brought about a change in the thinking and understanding and philosophy of people about women, their ability and their status throughout the world. But you must be thinking that who were these feminists? Who were the women and men who brought about such major changes? And women in a time in history of mankind when women were not allowed to go out, go for higher education and go on the roads protesting for their rights, demanding for their rights, then at that time, who were the women who had the courage and the heart to stand for the rights of women? So we will talk about some of the earlier feminist writers, the torchbearers who led this movement, who initiated this thinking and this philosophy. First of all, we hear about Mary Wollstonecraft, 1759 to 1797. The very first, the earliest writer known to be a feminist writer. She wrote in 1792 A Vindication of the Rights of Women, a very famous compilation, one of the earliest works of feminist philosophy that brought about a new way of thinking about things. She said and proposed that the reason for women's inferior status in the society was because they were not allowed to go for education. Education could have empowered them. Education could have given them a higher status, but the society stopped them from going for higher education or even education for that matter. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, 1815 to 1902, American social activist and suffragist who had a leading role in the American women's suffrage movement, that is, the movement for the rights of women to vote and take part in the political process. She wrote a number of pamphlets and articles about women's movement and suffrage, which stirred the people, which brought about a motivational change in the women in the society. She is author of various books. 3 volumes she wrote along with her colleagues of the famous History of Women's Suffrage. This book is a very helpful guide for understanding whatever was happening at that time in the history. Alice Stone Blackwell, 1857 to 1950. She was a feminist, human rights advocate, and a suffragist. So we see that most of these women were talking about suffrage and the right to vote and to take part in the political process. She was the chief editor of the leading American women's rights paper, Women's Journal, and her contribution is very important in this regard. Virginia Woolf, one of the very famous names, 1882 to 1941. She was an English writer, one of the first writers who brought a woman's inner life to the forefront, who said that we need to talk about it, we should be open about it. She is also one of the only women who noted that misogyny and militarism tend to go together. Virginia Woolf wrote in a variety of genres. She wrote 2 famous books, besides others, Room of One's Own and Mrs. Dalloway, and the other one. Virginia Woolf is known as a very famous writer and is a popular writer even today, even after having left this world. So we see that some of these women who were very early feminist writers, they brought about a new way of thinking, a new approach of looking at things, and a new way of examining and understanding the inner life of women.